Hello, and I'm speaking with Billy Offland from Manchester in the UK. And if I'm not wrong, you're the youngest Brit to have been to every country.
Well, that's a good question. I think there's some nuance in there. By Nomad Mania, I think I'm definitely the youngest verified Brit, but
Yes.
James Asquith still holds that Guinness record, which, yeah,
Oh,
I would
gotcha.
never have qualified for, I don't
My
think.
my source for information is purely Nomad Mania.
Hey, I'm
So
taking it. I'm taking it.
yeah, you should. And you're also an environmentalist as well.
I would say so, yes.
I was looking through your Instagram page, and first of all, I need to say your images and the pictures you've taken are absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
They're like to die for. Like I was scrolling through the pictures, and they are excellent. And also your trailer for your documentary and your cinematography. Are you in any way like in film or something?
Well, yes, that's my profession. So I'm mainly a producer or production manager in the TV world, doing ads. That's our bread and butter, which isn't very environmentally sustainable, making beautiful things to make people buy things, but it's a nice industry, and I sort of joined that with making films like the one you saw and one that I went and made this summer, which will hopefully be out next year.
Yes, it was a brilliant trailer. I will t touch up on that as well. Where I have one question on that as well. But I also wanted to say that I'm also a big film fan, and when I look at, I love movies, especially love filmmakers who are touching on these subjects like you do. It's really inspiring, and I'm really inspired also by your travels and all the places you've been because I feel that you're traveling with purpose in some way. You're meeting people, you're discussing environmental things. But before that, I wanted to ask you, how did this travel journey begin? Because I believe you started traveling from a very young age.
Correct. Yeah, I had, well, a dad who loved to travel. So I kind of grew up traveling a lot. So we'd be taken out of school, like the school holidays would exist, and then we would just make the school holidays a little bit
Little
bigger.
longer,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it was funny because you would always get in trouble for doing it, but dad took us on trips which were so valuable, and we weren't just going on holidays, we were going on adventures and going on real traveling experiences. And always for us, I don't know how sort of acceptable it is to say this, but dad traveled with a mantra of wanting to see places before they were ruined. And I guess that's a big sort of sweeping statement on the sort of impact of tourism in certain places, but he was like, he had so many places on his list, and he wasn't about to sort of let having two kids get in the way of him exploring the world. So we traveled a lot as I was younger. And as you probably well know, you catch the bug, I think. And then you
Yeah,
have a parent that continues to
absolutely.
push you into it and say, "Hey, you're going to go away. Let's
Absolutely.
do this. Let's do that." So, and look, we still travel together as a family once a year. Like some of my biggest trips were always with my family. I like save up my tokens of holidays I can take in a year, and like I'm going on a big 6 week trip with my family this Christmas. Like, how amazing is that?
Fun. Very good. Very headed off too.
Well, so we're going to a wedding in Thailand, and then also because Dad's decided that he wants to travel to every country in the world, he is now thinks this is a great time to go around the Pacific Islands. So I'm
Wow.
joining him for Palau, Federated States of Micronesia, Marshall Islands, Kiribati, Nauru, Fiji. So pretty cool family holidays, I think.
Yes, pretty cool. And also from a very wait, I think you're frozen. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you've frozen for me.
Oh, just give me a second. Okay, now you're fine.
There
Okay,
we
now
go.
it's
A
yep.
little bit
Now
of
it's
editing for you.
yes, editing magic, film magic.
There you go.
Yes. So, also from a very young age, you've been to very unique places because of your dad's philosophy that, going to places which are not spoiled, as he would say,
Hmm.
which is also something which my family and we also have been to places in my even younger ages my, when my family took me to places like Bosnia and Herzegovina, for example, or
Wow.
some place like in the remote places of Argentina or in some place in Oman. So pretty fun for me as well when I was young. So you're absolutely right. I got the bug in me. But
Yeah, and because it also informed sort of my young traveling, and then when I started traveling solo, that kind of mentality that dad instilled in us continued on because he was traveling Indonesia in the early 1990s, where it was like the islands off Bali. He tells stories of like rocking up and there was like a couple of hammocks, and you'd leave your bag on the beach for the whole week, and
yes,
nothing would happen. And so it was like when I left school and went and worked in Sao Tome and Principe for a few months, traveled across Madagascar and got my scuba diving, like dive master qualification there.
I'm
And
I'm
then,
also I'm also a scuba diver.
hey,
I'm advanced, Paddy.
well, I mean, and that's if there's any reason to want to travel, I think it's scuba diving's got a great purpose behind it. Also, because you've got to see that before it's ruined, because the coral
Yes,
reefs, climate change and coral reefs are not very good friends. So you got to see
yes,
our beautiful ocean before well, before it deteriorates a little bit. So that's
yes.
a good excuse.
And it just makes me very sad, to be honest, because I went to the Maldives just a few years back when I was young, and I saw the reefs and they were absolutely pristine. And then I dived in the same place a year back, and then I could just see the deterioration. And when you can see it physically, I don't know, it's very hard hitting, and I feel really bad,
Mm.
and I feel what can I do to make some things better. So travel has also changed a lot in my lifestyle just because I've seen it. People are not seeing the realities. That's why I think people are not acting the way they should.
Yeah, and I think it is a massive thing, isn't it? And I think there's a side of it where you wouldn't have had this consciousness about understanding the sort of declining coral reefs and the impacts of climate change and biodiversity loss without travel. But also these things can be a massive trigger for you wanting to travel more
More, yeah.
and going, actually, if I need an excuse to travel, where am I going to travel to? Why should I travel? Because I care about coral reefs. Let me go to Raja Ampat while that's still
Yes,
beautiful. Let me still go to
yes.
the islands, the Rock Islands in Palau. Let's still go to Galapagos. Or it's nice that they can sort of work both ways, can't it? That travel is gives you some consciousness, and then that consciousness goes, right, that's going to inspire me to do even more travel.
Absolutely. And that is also a big push for me as well. Uh, I think that many travelers go to escape reality. They want to get out of reality, but some people try to understand reality, which is
Yeah.
which is especially environmental decline in your case. And and you have seen this firsthand. You have been all over the world. What what is something about our responsibility and what is something about that you feel?
God, it's so hard because I think, I mean, my journey, as you sort of touched on before, I was going and meeting environmentalists who on the front line, I was choosing my stories. And what's really complicated is you take a global perspective and you go, wow, this is an absolutely mammoth challenge. And potentially for me, it made it even harder because I was like, oh my God, I saw so much chaos and how different impacts across each different place across the world that it was kind of really overwhelming from a personal perspective because you go, how are we going to solve all of this? But then you get into the sort of the amazingness of getting together at these big UN conferences, whether they work or whether they don't. But when you break it down into its constituent parts, there's little projects where people are having amazing impacts, reintroducing species, really changing practices in local areas. And I think sometimes if you get, which everyone is well within their right to, get really scared about the scale of this global challenge, that's going to be no good. And I think you can really find some joy or hope in breaking it down to that local scale.
Into
And
smaller.
I
Yeah.
think so. And I think because that's all that the impact that most people will have as individuals will be to make an impact on that local scale. And I think you can do that in your local area, whether it's something you find passionate about in your hometown or your home country. But also, I guess you can do that when traveling as well. And that can be supporting certain initiatives, going exploring, spending your money, learning in these areas. And like you said, you've fallen in love with coral reefs. Will that mean that you go and do something in your lifetime that will help support that? And I think, yeah, you can get very scared at the global scale, but if you find something that interests you on a local
The
scale, then
level, yeah. Pick your
that's a nice
passion,
thing.
pick your passion, and then try to do whatever you can.
That's what I've taken from it, I think, unless you're going to be someone who goes and sets policy at the UN,
Yes,
then
then you have to look at a then you're bound. Then you're
yeah,
bound.
exactly.
Yes, but like you said, you have spent so many years interviewing people, talking to people about the environment and speaking with people all over the world. And I find that one of the biggest joys of traveling is interacting with people across all cultures, all places. So, what has something about traveling taught you about people? Why should we talk to people? Because sometimes we're just going there, eating at one good restaurant, and just coming back. We are not speaking with people. We're not really understanding the local culture. And why is that also fundamentally important? Talking to people, and what is something that you've take, and what are some how should I frame it? Why is it important to talk to people, and what is one thing you've learned about people fundamentally when you're traveling?
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's really interesting because I spoke to a lot of people while traveling, but actually, quite a lot of my travel was quite insular in a way and was very solo. I traveled solo, but a lot of the sort of ways that I would go about my day to day whilst traveling was that I would just be myself in this world. Like I'll walk around markets with my AirPods in, listening to music, just blending in, just
Yes,
not being a
yes.
brash tourist. I would be sort of I would be quiet. I would try and be invisible. I try and feel and look like part of the furniture. And I think there's a massive an important differentiation there between going out and being a loud tourist and interrupting people's sort of day-to-day lives. Because at the end of the day, you're interrupting someone's usual sort of imagine someone walking into your like out your routine and interrupting things. And it's a real privilege to be able to do that. So a lot of my travels, I'd be quite solo. I was sort of so busy researching and things while I was away that even in my evenings, a lot of the time, I'd just be writing and
Thing.
laptop, being quite antisocial. And I think there's a balance of that, of sort of existing in these countries and observe kind of being full, look at me, chat, 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 chat. But also, my experiences in these countries would not have been the same without those people that I did go and chat to and the things that I learned about these places. And there is nothing more important than local knowledge, I think. And it would be, I would never really know what I was doing. I was so terrible at planning trips for a lot of the time, down to the minute detail, that the joys of interacting with people was just about, right, I'd get to a hostel or something and go, right, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? What am I going to see? And sort of hear from the people who live there, what are the things I should do and where am I going? And sort of because that's it, they've got the knowledge. And it's like people come to Manchester, it's like, God, good luck finding all the good things to do here. Good luck finding knowing what's on and what bars to go to and what restaurants to go to. Um, so yeah, I think it's quite hard because in some ways I'm a very insular traveler in some ways,
Mhm.
and
But yes, you're right. You know, you sort of strike a balance between observation and participation. So,
that's a
uh,
very
s
nice way of putting it.
yeah, so I think that's I because I agree with you as well. I have never traveled solo. I did for my first time in May. I went to Japan, I went to Malaysia, I went to Southeast Asia. And, uh, I did the same thing like you. I was putting my AirPods on and I was walking in the markets of Japan and I was walking in the streets of Tokyo. But then again, I have interacted with some locals and some people which made that trip special. So that's exactly what you said, and I relate
And it's
with it a lot.
always,
Yeah,
no, I was going to say, and it's about the style of travel as well, because
yeah,
sometimes, I don't know, there's a big differentiation in some ways between, and even I make it, between going on holiday and going traveling.
traveling.
In some ways, if sometimes the way that a holiday would be structured, you've got to go a lot more out of your way to have these connections with people and to make this conscious effort to interact. But the way I was traveling on a budget, solo, it almost became an unconscious part of my trip where I had to chat to people on the bus that I was traveling with. I had to chat to the bus driver. I'm just hanging out with people anyway. So it almost like, I think of it now and I was like, just as I was speaking then, I'm like, God, I sound like a bit of a knob saying that, oh, like going out of your way. But it's like, I think because at some point, being a budget solo traveler, that interaction was such an inherent part of my style of traveling that I never really had to think
You
about it.
can't avoid it also.
Exactly. And I think that's a beautiful part of certain ways of traveling. Like the way I approached my journey was I did probably the bulk of my traveling was done in two big 10-month stints, which was tried to be as much a continuous journey through
Journey.
countries as possible, which was amazing because I was traveling a lot through land. And that was just how am I going to get from A to B? Well, I'm just going to jump on this bus and then that bus, and then I'm trying to get there. So I'm going to go to this part of this country and then that part. And it's that style just lends itself to finding yourself in some very interesting situations
Situation.
where just a part of it is that you are interacting and hanging out with local people and trying to see the realities of what life is like and what people get up to and the corners of certain countries that as a tourist maybe you're not really supposed to go to. And I think that was the same part of the same way that I approached the environmental side of it and the research I was doing, that it's hearing stories and learning things that you have to sink quite deep under the surface to find. So yeah, it
Yes.
was a nice combination of things where travel style and intention of research really complemented each other nicely.
Yes, also because you're traveling with a purpose, I think it forces you as well to interact with people and it forces you to, as you said, talk with the bus driver, talk with other people. Because anyways, when I was also solo traveling, I was on a budget. So it just makes it just makes it subconscious in a way as well, like you said. So yes, and also you have been not all the people who I'm speaking with who have been to every country, they've all been to crazy places. They've been to uh Nauru, Palau, they've been to off the beaten path places, they've been to Congo, Central African Republic, and such places which if I ask people, they won't even be able to point it on a map. So, which is a fact. Maybe some people have not even heard of it. Like recently, I'm going to Tunisia, and I told some of my friends that I'm going to Tunisia, and they were like, "Where is that?" And I'm like, "It's in Africa." And they said like, I was like, "Okay, fine," but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so why is it important also to visit off the beaten path places? I feel, and what do you feel about people who are just chasing Instagrammable moments on and they're just trying to do the routine thing, going to that one place where this influencer is going there, clicking the same photo, eating the same dish, and then coming back home.
It's hard because really difficult and time consuming to travel in the way that we like to travel. And it takes a lot of nerve. And the easiest travel or the most comfortable thing is to go on a holiday or go traveling. And what are the tips that you find easily? And that will inform the pins that you put in your Google Maps and things like that. But doing it the way we do it, God, it's an absolute ball ache. It takes up so much time and it actually requires a reasonable amount of
Amount of
skill to,
planning and
yeah,
yeah,
a planning, but and skill in terms of going, right, how am I going to figure that out? How am I going to do that? Most people don't want to. And I do not blame them at all. It's like some of the travel that I did. It's like, God, I would not wish this upon 99% of people that I know. And I'm like, for most people, it wouldn't even be worth it. But there are a select few of us who think that taking a 14-hour trip across from Djibouti to Somaliland is a nice thing to do, or to go deep into the rainforest in Congo is a very nice thing to do. And in some ways, it's almost our obligation to go to these places if we can. Like I think about it in terms of like when I was in Zanga Sanga National Park in Central African Republic. It's like this is a national park in the middle of nowhere that either you cross up the river, the Zanga River, and from Cameroon or Congo, and that's a pretty hardy way of getting in, or you fly in from Bangui. And it's like sometimes getting there is all part of the journey, but also the support that you can give to support national parks who then will go and protect the rainforest and protect animals. It's like a lot of people aren't going to do that. And I think we're quite lucky that we have something in us that wants to go and explore these places. Because I kind of think about it, and go, God, what is the good thing about going there? It's like, what can I recommend to someone who would rather, I don't know, and no, slate on it, go and hang out in Bali for a bit. How am I going to persuade them that instead they should go and take a dugout canoe in Congo? And it's like, you're not going to do that.
you're not gonna
You're
do
not
that.
going to do that. There are certain
No,
trips for certain types of
no,
people.
yes,
And
absolutely.
and yeah, and even now it's like I look back at it and go, there's no, I'd struggle to drag my partner on some of those trips. So there is a time when you can really dig deep into that adventure budget travel where you really put it all on the line because it's not going to stay around forever, that I don't think. So I feel incredibly lucky that I went and did a lot of the travel that I did as young as I was, as hardy as I was, as foolish as I might have been, because yeah, I managed to travel in a way that I'll probably not be able to replicate in years to come. Like that was almost a time and a place. So make the most of it, I would say, to being able to do a lot of that travel young.
Yes, and it's also a lot of willpower, a lot of motivation, and lots of other things which fuel, I would say, the journey which you're going to take. Also, I'm not going to ask you what your favorite country is because that's a ridiculous question, I feel, because
And a very hard one.
and a very hard one because I don't think you could come up with an answer to it because I still don't. I've just been to a few countries and I still can't come up with an answer. But I will ask you, what are some of your favorite regions in the world, or some places where you have a special affinity to, or something where which you found exciting or unique in some sort of way, and which you like
It's
to
a good
recommend
one.
as well.
Yeah, I mean, I when people ask me that question, I will always say Indonesia tops my list. Potentially was because it was maybe my first solo traveling experience and I had the best time, but also because I think it's a region which you can say it to people and most people will find and have an amazing trip across Indonesia, and it will have something for everyone. And I think, yeah, it's hard. I break it down and I sort of go, historically, there's no better city in the world than Damascus in Syria. It's like, it's one of the oldest inhabited, continuously
Cities
inhabited cities in the
in
world.
the
And it's
world,
like,
yeah.
it's got a magic unlike anywhere else. And it's like you step underwater in Raja Ampat in West Papua, for example, and it's like you are in a world like beyond anything
Yeah.
that's possible. And but then you go, actually, there's I had an amazing time in Brazil earlier this year, just hanging out on beaches with my girlfriend. I'm like, what an amazing trip that is. Um, and then you go, but the adventure of travel in Africa is almost beyond anything else. It's such
Yes.
a hard question. And I think it's kind of
Yes.
all about purpose in a way. Because also, like, I went and hit up an amazing festival on the banks of the Aral Sea in Uzbekistan. And you go, what a unique event to be basically a techno rave on the banks of the Aral Sea in Uzbekistan. How cool is that?
Wow.
I haven't answered your question because yet again, it's an impossible question to answer because everything has something for everything
Something
in a
for,
way.
yeah. I feel if I just name a country, you'll be able to say something cool about it, and we can go on like that for like
Yeah.
forever. So, so
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah. So, but something which I had no plan of asking, but I will because I'm also a scuba diver. Which are one of your favorite diving destinations? Because
Good question. Raja Ampat in West
oh
Papua, Indonesia,
yes,
won that for me hands down. I
yes,
think it's some of the best diving I've ever done. Finding good diving nowadays is
it's very tough.
it can be quite difficult, and it's like the ease, especially if you're a fan of coral reefs. I think it can be quite a difficult thing, but Indonesia wins it every time. Like you're diving in Bunaken in Sulawesi, you've got some of the most amazing wall dives in the world. You can go all across Indonesia and do the best diving trip. So for me, I haven't found anywhere as good as that recently,
I
and I don't
second
think I
that.
will again.
I second that as well. I studied 2 years in Singapore, so I had access to Southeast Asia, and I got my diving from Malaysia, from Tioman.
Very nice
So
island.
yeah, very nice island, very secluded, very peaceful. I loved it, and it's actually one of the best diving I've done. Uh, I have not explored much of the world in diving. I would say a lot for me to
Hmm.
explore, but uh, that region is absolutely
I
stunning.
mean, diving and traveling is that's you could spend all of your travel money ever and all of your work holidays just diving around the world, couldn't you? It's like it's a complicated passion to have because it's like, God, do I want to go and spend £6,000 on a 12-day liverboard or however much it is? And it's like
Yes,
you could be very tempted to do all of that.
yes, and I don't know. Something is about diving is just it just spoke to me, and when I
And I
am
think it's
underwater.
all all gone.
No, so I was saying when I'm underwater, there's like this feeling of like I'm in another planet, and that's absolutely something which whenever I'm not in water, like right now, every single day, I think about the moment when I'll have my next dive.
And I think the beauty of it is as well, it's like we're talking about meeting locals and things like that before, but I think having a community when traveling and common ground's really important. Like diving, you can rock up to a dive shop anywhere, and like being a dive master, I get treated quite nicely because people sort of go, "Oh, I don't need to look after him; he's fine." And you can just rock up to a dive shop anywhere in the world, and you will find a community of like-minded people and you always end up in cool areas. Everyone's interesting. Everyone's got something to say. All the travelers there have all got some common ground. And it's kind of like what we were saying before as well, more generally off air about sport. And it's like how having a sort of a bit of knowledge or common ground with people, sport is such an easy way to do that. Like I'm a massive cricket fan, you're a cricket fan. That sets you in amazing stead traveling around India and Pakistan. I was saying how I used to wear a Man United badge on my sort of fishing vest lapel so that across Africa, like people would just go, Manchester United. It's like, great, we've got a conversation going on. Or like playing rugby with people in Fiji and being able to play rugby meant that I could just hang out or things like this and playing football with loads of Afghans in Pakistan. It's like finding common ground with certain communities is another great way of traveling. And it's like I know travelers
Absolutely.
who love Latin dancing, and it's like, how are you going to go and meet people? It's like, well, they'll just go to the Latin club, or That's another really cool way of doing it, of traveling and immersing yourself, even if you're there for no time whatsoever. Having a hobby or something like that and being able to quickly jump into a small
To it, yeah.
community.
That's a good. Some people are doing food, some people are doing the diving like us, and it's a great way to explore. Also, you were also talking off air about your documentary in Pakistan and in
Hmm.
Pakistani Kashmir, if I'm not wrong.
Hmm.
And I've been to Indian side of Kashmir, not the Pakistani side, and it's such a it's probably one of the most beautiful places I've seen.
Hmm.
And you have done a documentary on bee making, honey making
Hmm.
on beekeepers in Azad
Jammu and
Kashmir,
Kashmir.
Azad Jammu and Kashmir in Pakistan. Yes. So what do you have to say about that stuff?
Well, I mean, it's kind of a lot of my travel has been purposeful in a way that I've traveled with an intention of doing something in each place, and that has taken me to certain parts of a country or to certain people that I would never have accessed if I didn't have that level of purpose. And doing that documentary in AJK was another example of that because a lot of Kashmir in Pakistan is split into the northern regions, which are some of the most touristy parts of Pakistan in a way for the mountains. But AJK, um, in that little corner on the border, people never go there because actually there's no reason to go there. There's like it doesn't have any tourist attractions. It doesn't have any of the biggest mountains. The best bits are sort of that slither, the Neelam Valley area, which you can't get to because you can't get permits. And I think the privilege of doing a documentary like that was because I got to spend time and real good time. I think maybe 2 months in a little valley called Dirkot that there would have been no reason for me to go to otherwise. And I kind of didn't. It was no better than anywhere else in the rest of Pakistan. I mean, it was beautiful, but I got to spend this time with these people, really understanding them, becoming friends with them, understanding that the life that they lived and their challenges. And I guess this is a big thing about traveling in general. And what you learn about traveling is the people and the politics are two very distinct things, and people don't represent the politics of a country a lot of the time. And that's the same with AJK. It's a very secure place in terms of it's very heavily militarized. I had a lot of the government security forces checking on us non-stop, but there was never any danger there for us. And I think that's the thing with a lot of the world. I think if you've got a bit of sense and you actually hang out with normal people, the world is a beautiful place, and everyone at the end of the day is just living their own life. Everyone is just
Yes.
trying to think about what they're going to have for lunch. Everyone's just worried about what their kid's going to do and getting their kid to school. And it's just normal people doing normal things a lot of the time. And I guess that can also be a contrast between the sort of tourism world where all you're dealing with maybe can be guides and tourism adjacent people in certain ways, if you can step out to that and try and find what normal life's like, then you get an interesting sense of the country. And I think you need both in a way because the people that I was with in AJK gave me an amazing sense of what normal life's like and seeing the socializing and everyone just coming around and sipping tea together and the beauty of community and some things that in Manchester we've lost of just sort of having people coming around to your house and drinking tea
Yes,
and just hanging out and
absolutely.
just rocking up unannounced. And that is a perspective, but also that person isn't going to give me the political context and the background of the socioeconomic broader level things that someone who is around tourists all the time would give. And I think sometimes traveling in the way that I do a lot of the time, solo, very sort of can be quite isolated, not hanging around with guides very much, like whatever. Sometimes you miss out on a lot of that important information about a country. And you can travel quite deeply into a country and get to some really off the beaten track destinations. But unless you really try as well, you're not understanding a lot about the history of that place. You're not understanding a lot about the broader narratives and trends in these countries. So there's quite an interesting thing in that, and that's maybe something that I'm looking forward to maybe changing when I go back to a lot of these places. Is going with a little bit more money, with a little bit less time, so I'm forced to kind of have someone take me round. Is going give me a little bit more context into these places as get taken around by a professional. And I think a lot of the
Yes.
time we as solo travelers can go, no, I want to do it all by myself. And
Yes.
it's like
So
I think
that's
unless you really try, then you might struggle with that.
it's like a trap, I would say, almost, that and also you're right, it's just a very two-faced coin, because sometimes you're doing slow travel and then you're talking with people, you're getting to understand their culture, and you're really getting deep into that part, but then you're missing the broader thing which you would have with, for example, a tour guide, which I have also seen personally, because I have traveled with my family with little more, as you say, budget, with a little bit lesser time, and then
Hmm.
I have seen the broader things. But then when I did it solo, I saw the cultural things, and it's a very two-faced coin, like you said,
Hmm.
and I agree with you a lot on that. And I'm asking this question to everybody because I would like to know what your travel style is. So, if I dropped you into a new place today, which you have not yet explored, what would be your way of exploring it?
Excellent question. I think I think what is my chart? I would just walk around and then eventually I would stop and find an excuse to ask someone a question, probably over a bite of something for lunch or a
Yes, food.
tea. Food, I'd stop, I'd sit down and I'd ask someone, where am I? What am I doing? Where am I going? What do you recommend? That would always be, I think, the easiest way to go about it. Without the ability to consult a map and to plot my own route, because I live
Yes.
on maps. But if you drop there, I think you've got to find somewhere to eat.
Yes, that would be my approach as well. I love walking. Somehow, whenever I'm traveling, I'm like hitting such high amount of steps. It's unbelievable.
Hmm. And that's the other thing with photography as well. Like you spoke about my
Yes,
pictures before. That's just doing something like that is a good excuse to walk around. And it makes walking around a little bit more fun, having
but
a camera
also
slung around your neck.
yes, and but getting the right pictures, getting the right angles must require a lot of patience, a lot of calmness, and lot of because I was like in safaris in Africa, and you're waiting there for like 2 hours, 3 hours, trying to get a good shot and trying to get a good picture. It requires so
Hmm.
much patience. So I really commend you for that, because majority of people don't have it.
Hmm.
Majority of people, they can't, because it's really really cool. Like some of the shots you have, I sent it to some of my friends, some of my family, and they're absolutely in love with this as well. And I am going to Tunisia, as I told you, and one of your recent pictures was of Tunisia, and I was like, wow,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
makes me
yeah.
want to go to these places even more. These things motivate me so much, and they're so inspiring. And thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me. Really learned a lot about your insights. It was a lot of fun. Had a
No,
good
my
time.
pleasure.
Had a
Always
good
nice to
time.
get to
And
speak about travel.
yes, and when is your documentary coming out? I really want to see it.
Well, it's out in the US at the moment.
All
If
right.
anyone, if you want to watch it, drop me a message and I'll send you a link because I'm
Done.
not waiting for someone to distribute it officially. So let me know and I'll
Done.
send you a link.
Done. I will do that immediately after this. And thank you so much.
No, thank you, mate. Appreciate it.